In the winter of 1846, nearly 90 pioneers set off toward California, chasing promises of gold, land, and a better life. They were families, children, and hopeful travelers from Illinois, ordinary people with extraordinary dreams. But by the time spring came, only about half of them would survive. This is the horrifying story of the Donner Party, one of the most tragic and chilling chapters in American history. The group followed the long and treacherous Oregon Trail, but instead of sticking to the known path, they made a fatal choice: to take a new shortcut called the Hastings Cutoff. It promised a faster route across Utah's Great Salt Lake Desert and through the Sierra Nevada mountains. But that shortcut turned into a death trap. As they reached the Sierra Nevada in October, an early snowstorm sealed their fate. The mountains became a prison of ice. The wagons couldn't move. Supplies ran low. Tents collapsed under snow. The dream of California vanished, replaced by hunger, fear, and a chilling choice: survive or die. The man behind the shortcut was Lansford Hastings, who had never even traveled the route himself. But in his published guide, he insisted it would save hundreds of miles. The Donner Party, led by George Donner and James Reed, decided to trust him. At first, the trail looked promising. But then came endless deserts, jagged mountains, and brutal heat. Wagons broke. Oxen died. Water disappeared. They lost weeks trying to cross areas that were nearly impassable. Tensions grew. Families argued. Tempers flared. James Reed even killed a man in a fight and was banished from a group, though he would later play a vital role in their rescue. By the time the group reached the Sierra Nevada in late October, they were weeks behind schedule, and disaster struck. Snow began to fall. The pass they needed to cross, Donner Pass, was buried in white. They were trapped. Snow piled up to 20 feet high. Temperatures dropped below freezing. The group built crude cabins and shelters near Truckee Lake, now known as Donner Lake. For weeks, they waited for help that never came. Food ran out quickly. They ate everything they could: dogs, ox hides, bark, leather. But hunger gnawed at them relentlessly. People began to die from starvation and cold. And then came the moment everyone fears. The survivors, too weak to hunt or travel, made a desperate decision. They would eat the bodies of the dead to stay alive. It wasn't murder. These were their own friends, even family. But it was the only option left. They cooked small portions in secret. It was horrifying, but it kept them breathing. This was no longer a journey. It was a nightmare. In December, a group of 15 of the strongest members decided to leave the camp and walk through the mountains to find help. They were called the Forlorn Hope. Each person carried a bit of dried meat and homemade snowshoes. But the blizzards didn't stop. One by one, people collapsed in the snow. They too ran out of food. And again they turned to cannibalism. When 4 people died from starvation and cold, the others used their bodies for food. It was unthinkable but necessary. After 33 horrifying days, only 7 survived the march. But they made it, stumbling into a small Native American village who gave them food and warmth. Word reached the settlements. People were starving in the mountains. In February 1847, rescue teams finally reached the camps. What they found was worse than anyone expected. Starving people, barely alive. Some had lost limbs to frostbite. Others were mentally broken. Half of the original group was dead, many of them eaten by the survivors. In total, only 47 out of 89 pioneers survived the ordeal. The rest were buried in snow, lost to the mountains forever. George Donner died in camp. His wife chose to stay and die beside him, even though she was offered a chance to escape. James Reed, the man once banished, returned as a hero. He helped save many of the survivors, including his own family. The story of the Donner Party shocked the nation. People were horrified by the cannibalism, but many also saw it as a brutal symbol of how far people would go to stay alive. Today, Donner Lake and Donner Pass still bear their name, silent reminders of a journey gone wrong. Not because they were foolish, but because they were desperate, human, and trapped by nature's fury.